In this section, we'll be working with groups. Groups in Linux are used as they are in other operating systems to control access to resources like files, directories, and permissions to run applications or make system changes. We saw a brief example with the sudo command in an earlier lesson. To give a non-root user sudo permissions, the easy way is to add the user to the sudo group in Ubuntu. In coming lessons, we'll look at the primary group assigned to a user and what that means, secondary groups, and adding users to and removing them from groups. You also learn how to change group ownership of files with the chgrp command, chgrp. So let's get started. In this lesson, we'll learn how to control access to folders and files based on group membership. You'll find any number of answers when you ask the question, where should I keep files or folders I want to share between users on a Linux system? Here are a few possibilities. You can make a directory in var called share, var local share, home share, a share in the root directory, or a share in SRV. Or you could share it any place that makes sense to you. For this lesson, we're going to make a new folder off of the home directory. So we'll type make dir home Rebel Alliance. Make that sudo make dir home Rebel Alliance. So we can see that it's there. If we do an ls-l on the home directory, we can see that Rebel Alliance is now owned by root, user, and root group. We're going to create a Rebel Alliance group. Then we're going to give that group permissions to the Rebel Alliance folder. And we're going to add users to the Rebel Alliance group so they can access the folder. Creating a group is straightforward. You just type add group, Rebel Alliance, and hit enter. Again, again as root, so you have to do sudo. Then we can grep for Rebel in etc group and see that it's there. And there we go. It's group 1001. Now we have a folder we want to share, and we have a group that we want to put users in who can access it. We use the chgrp command, chgrp, to add the group to the folder. Always with sudo. Now we can do ls-l on home again, and we see that Rebel Alliance is now the group that has permissions on the Rebel Alliance folder. There are still no users in the group though. We'll add one now. We'll use usermod to do that. Type usermod -a and capital G. Remember, if you use the lowercase g, it'll make it a primary group, and we don't want that in this case. So usermod -a capital G Rebel Alliance for the group name, and Skywalker for the username. Sudo, of course. Then we can grep for Rebel in etc group again and see that it has a member, Skywalker. We'll switch user to Skywalker. And there's nothing in the folder right now in Rebel Alliance. But we'll add something. And that didn't work because we don't have write permissions to this folder yet. We'll add those permissions with chmod. So chmod g plus rwx home Rebel Alliance. As sudo, of course, again. And we can see now the group has read, write, and execute. So we'll do touch plans for deathstar.txt again. And this file is owned by the group L Skywalker, so we have to change that to Rebel Alliance. We'll do chgroup Rebel Alliance plans for deathstar.txt ls-al again. Actually, we could just do ls-l. ls-al just prints these top directories that we don't need right now. And we can see the group has been changed to Rebel Alliance. In order for someone else to see that file, we're going to have to add them to the Rebel Alliance group too. So we'll do sudo usermod -ag Rebel Alliance L Organa. Then we'll su to L Organa. And she's already in the folder. Let's see if she can look at the plans for Death Star. Well, there's nothing in there, so yes, she could. Let's put something in there. Okay, so we put something in the file. Now we exit out and go back to L Skywalker. And look, Luke can see that Leia was there. Looking at the file again, we can see that everyone has read permissions on this file. This is probably not what we want for our secret file. We'll exit from Leia's account because Luke has sudo permissions and she doesn't. We'll remove read permissions for all the other users because we don't want that on a secret file. You can see all others have read. Because Luke owns this, he could remove the read permissions for all others. You remove the permissions with the chmod o-r and then the file name. You can see it's now no permissions for anyone outside the group. Switching user to dvader now. We can see that the file is there, but if we try and look into it, we get permission denied. Hopefully this is an Alliance-controlled server and no one from the Federation has root permissions on it. So now we know how groups, users, and permissions come together to let you regulate who has access to what on your server. Using just this very simple example for now. In this lesson, we're going to talk about editing text files. So if you're at the command line and you have to edit a text file, what do? Well, you're going to use a text editor a command line text editor. There are two that we're going to cover in this course. Vim, which is for VI Improved. It's a version of VI with many changes that make it more useful. And the second is Nano. Nano is another text editor. As the name says, Nano's another text editor. And it's an enhanced free Pico clone, which doesn't matter too much to us. What matters is this is more of a graphical kind of interface. Please try Vim first, and then check out Nano. Of course, you can use whatever tool does the job for you. Just please give Vim a chance. There's another one called GNU Emacs, that's E-M-A-C-S, but that doesn't come by default in Ubuntu, and we're not going to cover that, but you could check that out if you want to check out another option. So let's start editing some text files. The first editor we're going to discuss is Vim. There are literally whole books written on VI and Vim. I have a book called Learning the VI Editor, 6th edition, by Linda Lamb and Arnold Robbins from O'Reilly Press, which sadly I've never completed. We'll hit on enough here to let you quickly and easily edit files with Vim, and this is likely all you'll need. As mentioned in the previous lesson, Vim stands for VI Improved. VI is an editor you'll find on almost any Linux, BSD, or Unix system, and that makes it pretty much universal. If you want to edit a text file, you're almost guaranteed to be able to use VI to do it. The thing is, VI doesn't behave the way you think it should. The up arrow may not work at all, or may not take you up a line when you're editing a file. Use H, J, K, and L instead of arrow keys to move around. Vim is much more user-friendly in that regard. Vim is available on all Linux systems, although you may have to install it as a package on some. It's in the default installation for Ubuntu Server. To use Vim, you just type Vim and then the file name. If the file exists, Vim will open it and you can edit it. If it doesn't exist, Vim will create it. So when we start out, once we've opened a file, we're in command mode. Vim has three main modes: insert mode, command mode, and last line mode. And we'll cover each of those now. In command mode, you don't edit the file as you would in a normal text editor. You use it to move around, and you can edit, but it's done a bit differently. Let's go into insert mode by pressing I. You can see in the lower left, the word insert appears. So now we can start typing our text. So now we've added a bunch of text to our file. Now we'll go over the command modes and how to navigate between them in a little more detail. When you enter a file in Vim, you'll be in command mode. When you're in command mode, you type I to go to insert mode. When you're done editing a file and you want to save, you'll hit escape and then colon to go into last line mode. And finally, if you're in last line mode and you want to get back into insert mode, you hit escape and then I. Now we'll cover a little bit more about how to edit a file, and then later we'll go back over the last line commands that you'll need to use. We can save it by hitting escape to get back into command mode, colon, W for write. If we want to actually get out of the file, we hit escape, colon, WQ to quit. You don't really need to hit escape the first time as you're already in command mode, but I'm kind of in the habit of hitting escape just to make sure I'm in command mode. It doesn't hurt anything if you hit escape again. So now we can look at our file by just catting it, and we can see our stuff is there. So let's get back into the file and move around a bit. We'll just hit the up arrow twice to get back into our new file with Vim. So remember, when we first get into our file, we're in command mode. Let's navigate around a little bit using other things than the cursor. First, we can get around with the up arrow and down arrow. So here I hit down arrow once, I go down a line, down twice, down 2 lines, right arrow, I move right, left arrow, I move left, up arrow, I move back up. Now let's get around using the H, J, K, and L keys. You'll see those are all in a row on the keyboard under your right hand. H moves one character to the left. We don't see anything happen right now because we're all the way to the left. J moves down 1 line. K moves up 1 line. And L moves to the right. So we can move L multiple times. You can just hold it down and it'll keep moving. If we hit H now, we move back to the left. Remember though, you can use the arrow keys if you want to. Now we'll move to different words. W moves to the next word, so we hit W. We move to we. We hit W again, we move to can. We move to W, we hit start. B moves you back to the beginning of the previous word. So we'll go back to can with B, we, now. E moves to the end of the current word, so now we'll get to the W in now if we hit E. Then we'll get to the end of the next word, we. Then the N in can. 0 moves us back to the beginning of the line. So if we're in the middle of the line and we hit 0, we'll go right back to the beginning of that line. $sign moves us to the end of the line. So if we hit Shift 4, that's $sign, we go to the end of a line. Capital G moves us to the end of the file. It'll move us to the beginning of the last line in the file. Lowercase gg moves us back to the beginning of the file. There are a few editing commands you can learn that will greatly speed up your editing work. If you're on a line that you want to delete, you just hit DD. DD again for another line. If you hold DD down, it'll delete several lines in a row. DW will delete a word. If we go over a bit and we hit D0, that'll delete from where we are to the beginning of the line. D $sign will delete from where we are to the end of the line. Hitting DD to get us up to a new line. D capital G will delete to the end of the file. And DGG will delete to the beginning of the file. Undo undoes the last command. So if we hit U, it'll undo the last command. And you can delete the last several. You can just keep undoing. And you can see when we get to our oldest change, since the last save, it says already at oldest change. If we want to search for some text, we hit the / and type the text. So we'll look for the word cool. And we see the next one from where the cursor was. You can see there's one behind that. You hit a capital N to search backwards, and N to go to the next. Backwards with a capital N, forward with a lowercase n. If we hit a question mark and then a term, it'll search backward from where we are in the file. So it goes back to start. You can see if you hit N to find the next occurrence, it says search hit top, continuing to search on bottom. There's only one instance of start in this file, so that's all we have. So let's say we want to replace a word. We want to do a find replace. You can do that by typing :% /text. In this case, we'll switch cool / replacement text. We'll replace that with awesome. And then /GC. So it'll do it globally, and it will ask us to confirm. So you hit enter. It's asking, do you want to replace? You have several options there. We'll type yes, and yes again, and it's switched out cool with awesome. You could use that with any text, of course. Those few commands are more than enough to get you started. Now we'll cover the most common last line commands. Once you hit escape, you type : to get into last line mode, and you could type Q to quit. You would type Q and then ! to force quit. Vim will try not to let you lose your work by accidentally quitting. So if you've written something and you still want to quit anyway and lose your changes, you hit Q ! W will write or save your work. WQ will write and then quit. Those four things are pretty much all you'll need for last line commands. Please give it some practice. A half hour of playing around with these commands will set you on your path to becoming a command line guru. Have fun.